Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on Scholar Hangout. I am Catherine Dollar with New Forms Press, and I help talk with authors and hear about the latest research and ideas coming out of the higher education industry. Today I am with Patricia Shields, Dr. Pat Shields of Texas State University, and New Forms Press often goes to Pat for anything regarding research methods, scholarly writing, and theory. So we're extremely excited to have her on today because she has made this incredible correlation between theory and football, which what perfect timing, Pat, because it's football season, we're just kicking off, everyone's excited, watching their favorite teams. So Pat, can you explain how you made this relation between theory and football?
Well, the connection all began when I observed some of my football player graduate students, and they seemed they were working on what was equivalent of a master's thesis, and we have a notebook which helps them organize themselves to keep track of their time, material, and ideas in that notebook. They would hold on to that notebook as if it was a teddy bear. So you would see these fierce, wonderful football players holding on to a notebook as a way to get through this process of writing a big paper. And that was kind of an astonishing image. And I was in the process of trying to write a book that dealt with theory and how theory and purpose are connected. And I thought, maybe football offers something. And why were those football players excited? They were excited. They loved it because it was like teaching them how to break things into small pieces, like lifting weights or doing drills. And it got them ready to be on the field. It got them ready to write their paper. So with that in mind, I started thinking about football. And my biggest problem was how to show students the importance of connecting the purpose and the theory when they are trying to do empirical research or collecting data. And then it hit me that a play was a form of theory. A play, it was like a hypothesis. It was connected to how many yards they were trying to make, the team. Long or short yardage would have a different kind of play. And then what was probably also important is that the play directed what the people do on the ground, how they move. So, and theory, actually, a hypothesis needs to be operationalized. A hypothesis directs variable construction. It directs the operationalization of the entire empirical research project. So if you could think about theory like a play, it was easier for students to digest. And then I got more and more insights about theory. One reason students find theory so confusing is that they're introduced in their undergraduate classes to things like supply and demand or realism or some kind of big picture theory, and how are they going to take that big picture theory and move it into a small research project where they're going to have to collect data? Well, that aspect of scale in theory is really important. So if you think about scale, you can think about the football rules as being similar to big picture theory. And the next level might be the strategy. Of course, if a football coach would have a strategy for an entire game, he would try to figure out how to beat another team, but that's different than at the play level, which is on the ground, close to the ground. All of those things can be seen as types of theory, and they inform one another. The play depends upon the strategy. The play is dependent upon the rules, and so if a student can begin to see that some of the theory that they're learning is sort of higher level theory, sort of like football rules, and that other theory is a basic hypothesis. For example, if they wanted to know what affected wages, well, they could education or amount of work experience might affect education. Well, how are you going to, our wages, how are you going to measure those things? Those kinds of questions are similar to how the play, and you can see the picture of the playbook here, how the play directs what the players do. Now, what's the key here, we call this a conceptual framework, is that a student, when they're trying to do a research project, they're not supposed to be a player per se. They need to be like a coach. They need to invent their hypotheses, just like the coach will be inventing the plays. So, and hence there's a need for creativity. But going back to theory at different levels, you could, and that a play is like, can you imagine a football team that went onto the floor or the ground without plays? They just wouldn't. What would they do? It wouldn't work. So you need that theory to help direct things. But the play itself is something that they write down in a book. It's X's and O's, and that aspect is the theory part. But then what happens when the men run? That's when the theory is being operationalized, and then you can connect it to the findings. The play, it either worked or didn't work, just like a hypothesis either is supported by the evidence or it's not supported by the evidence. And then when I was working on, one of the keys about theory to me is that there is a difference between the purpose, or the purpose and the type of theory can be connected. So you can have, besides hypotheses, there could be other kinds of theories. One of them I thought was a description and descriptive categories. And here I had a football example where, what about a football coach that walks into he's a new football coach, and he walks into a new into his equipment room in the beginning of the season, and it's a big mess. For him to make sense out of what he has to sort everything. He has to classify. So similarly, descriptive categories can be seen as a kind of theory, a pre-theory, so something like the periodic table, or taxonomies in zoology and biology. Sometimes students need to theorize at the description level. So there's just lots of ways you can connect theorizing and theory and doing empirical research to football.
I love that, because what I'm also hearing is, just like a football team wouldn't go on a field without the playbook, without the coach's strategy, so a writer that's applying theory to their research should not just sit down and start writing. You have a playbook. You have outlined your goals and how you're going to play out your theory through your research. Is that correct?
Oh, it's exactly right. That was a great insight.
I absolutely love that. And for everyone watching Scholar Hangout, please, Pat is going to be explaining more of this throughout the blog. She's going to be sharing more from her book and research on how to apply football and other theories to research and research methods. So, Pat, I am so excited to see what more you come out with and share with us. I'm excited to see your new blog post coming out this Thursday. So, thank you for joining us today. And everyone, make sure to follow us on Twitter at @NewForums. And the hashtag you can follow is #ScholarHangout. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Okay.